for those of you who are not familiar, this is the first time, what we'll be doing is you guys will get an opportunity to hear a testimonial, somebody who's gone through a whole plant-based food lifestyle change with help of Dr. Weiss. And you will hear the story, and you guys get an opportunity to ask questions. Okay?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. I am Ron Weiss. And let me introduce our superstar for the morning, Mary Ellen Anderson.
Good morning.
Okay. We're going to be learning about her journey today. So on my right, we have Anthony Masiello, with whom without, we wouldn't be standing here. So I am actually standing on the stage Anthony built. Anthony, with his bare hands, constructed this in 2 hours. Brought all the wood, sawed it, put it together by himself, just before Dr. Furman came to speak for us in May. So
they think that's great, and everyone up here thinks they're nervous now because of that. It hasn't fallen down yet.
Well, the Ethos Chainsaw Massacre has not materialized, so I think we're safe by now. So Anthony is our amazing community organizer, amazing health coach, and has lived this stellar plant-based life. So we have him as one of our experts. We have Asha Gala, who is our lifestyle director for our medical practice. We have me, the primary doctor, Mary Ellen. We have Wendy Yergosky, who is chef, Renaissance woman, health coach. She takes care of our patients during the 30-day challenge and detox and holds their hand and guides them. We have Sarah, who is in the 99th percentile of the country. People don't know what the heck I mean when I say that, but this is what it means. It means that by next year, she will be sitting in medical school because she has gotten in the 99th percentile of all applicants taking the medical boards. It will be her choice, I'm sure. And so she is my right arm, my scribe, my assistant, and so she helps to guide every one of our patients with me. And then, of course, we have the lovely Karina Lamalfa. I refer to her as the queen because she has a queenly and such an aristocratic air to her. Not the let them eat cake kind of thing. It's not like that. And if it were cake, it would be like a kale cake. Amazing Ruby chef and health coach. And she guides our patients along their journey in the year of mindful living and in our mindful journey programs. So, without further ado, let's get to the main attraction, which is Mary Ellen. So, Mary Ellen, tell us where you began in your health journey before you began to realize, that there are other choices available to you.
Just good morning, and I want to thank Dr. Weiss and Asha to ask me to share my story with you. And I have to say that I will get to the answer to your question. But I was a little surprised that I was asked because I don't have a dramatic story. I didn't have a disease that was totally debilitating and I would do anything to get rid of it. I wasn't on a drug where the side effects were just atrocious and I would do anything to get off that drug. I was just a normal American middle-aged woman who saw my health deteriorate. I would go for my annual physical every year, and my blood pressure kept going up, and my cholesterol kept going up, and my weight kept going up. I was in my mid-50s, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I said, girl, you look matronly. I had this middle around me. My waist was gone. Didn't know what happened to it. And I went to the doctors, and I wasn't drug worthy yet. I was, go on a diet, eat right, exercise. I said, I think I do eat right. I think I do exercise. And the trajectory was towards disease. The other thing that was going on in my head was that my dad died. Oh, I'm gonna get emotional. At age 55 from a heart attack. So I knew that I didn't have the greatest cardiovascular genes. And he had COPD, he was a smoker, my mother was a smoker. My entire life I grew up in a house full of smoke from when I was a kid to when I went off to college. So I knew that environmentally I was exposed to some things that were probably detrimental. I knew that from a genetics point of view, I probably had some, genes that maybe weren't as healthy, and I knew just physically my trajectory was towards disease, and I was very unwilling to accept that.
So I like the way you began because, I think that for the most part, the people you've seen up here for the other farm days were chosen because they had a dramatic, life-threatening problem. But what you're saying is you have the problem that all the rest of us have.
That's right.
Which is we're traveling along the road of aging and morbidity. That slow, progressive decline towards old age. And you didn't want that.
Correct.
So at what point did you decide you were going to change that, and what did you do?
So I was ruminating on this, and suddenly someone told me about a book by this Dr. Joel Fuhrman, and it was called Eat to Live. And I read that book, and I would have to say it changed my life. And I highlighted that book, I dog-eared that book, and I just felt a connection. And then I got to meet Anthony. And then I watched this movie called Forks Over Knives, and I thought that this is the ticket. This is really it. And so when I read the book, I actually started on my own journey, and I tried to eat better. And I was doing okay, trying to muster up information as I went along. And then I think there's a saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so about a year into this journey, I had the pleasure of finding out about Ethos and about Dr. Weiss and his crew here, of his approach to like the whole person. And I guess I was among the beginning. I did my detox in January of 2015.
Mary Ellen was one of our first patients here on the farm.
Yeah.
One of them.
And so that's when I started, and this whole new world, a new dimension of what I was trying to do opened to me with having the support here of the total encompassing program that the Ethos Health provided.
So what were your outcomes, and what happened to you?
So from my original journey for cardiovascular disease, as you might expect, my blood pressure came down, my cholesterol came down. I now have a waist, and I thought that there would be nothing more thrilling than having a waist again. But then I stumbled onto something that I kind of didn't expect. When I was working in 2013, the company offered some health screening tests. And I went to this health screening test, and I was really very upset when I got the results because my carotid artery showed mild plaques. And, you know, it was something that I kind of stored away and kind of went on my way, and I was hoping that I wasn't headed towards down that road. And I had the opportunity to do that same test again a year and a half ago, and the results came back negative. So in those years, from when I started the program a little bit on my own in 2014 with Dr. Weiss in 2015, I actually reversed the plaques that were in my carotid artery. I was amazed at that. I was so proud, actually, of having done that.
Can you tell us a little bit about your Graves' disease?
Oh, yeah. So now, I came here for certain reasons, and then when I came to Dr. Weiss, and he took my history, in 2002 I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. That's a disease where your thyroid is enlarged and it's really producing a lot of thyroid hormone. So I went to an endocrinologist. He put me on a drug, Tapazole, and if anybody has that disease, it is debilitating. And I started to feel much better, and over a year we decreased the dose and I tapered off, and my thyroid hormone levels were good. And he sent me on my way, and he said, you know, if this happens to you again, we're going to have to take out at least half your thyroid. So I was like, I really don't want to do that. So now I'm thinking that happened in 2002. By 2003 or whatever, I was kind of, that was behind me, so I thought. So I come here, and Dr. Weiss says, okay, we're going to test your hormones, but do you know what happens with Graves' disease? When your thyroid is totally out of control, your body starts producing antibodies that attack your own thyroid because the body says, hey, we got to get this under control. So while I thought I had kind of outrun autoimmune disease, Dr. Weiss did tests on me that were anti-thyroid antibodies, and those antibodies were astronomically off the charts. So in all these intervening years, my body was attacking my thyroid, and I didn't even know. Well, we've been on the program now for a while, and we keep testing those anti-thyroid antibody levels, and one of them came into normal range, and the other one came down significantly. I'm still above normal, but it's a journey, and I know that I will continue to help myself and my autoimmune disease, because my goal is to keep my thyroid functioning for the rest of my life.
So what I like about what you're saying is it illustrates what you began with, which is we all have, you know, processes within us which we are not aware of. And these two that you gave an example of, the Graves' disease, which, you know, you thought you were okay, but of course shows up years later, and your body and your immune system is continuing to launch these high-level attacks on you. And of course, the unsuspecting or the unknowing atherosclerosis that you had in your carotid arteries. So we have things going on with us, and just because you're not aware of them, they don't mean they're not there. And I think that when you began by saying, well, you didn't want to enter that period of sickness and aging, I think that you were already there.
Yeah. Yes.
Without knowing it. And now look what a wonderful thing you've done with reversing the autoimmune attacks and the atherosclerotic process. So trying to look ahead, tell us where you see your journey going and what kind of new doors have opened.
Before I go there, can I tell you one other benefit that came out of this?
You better.
And again, this is one of those stories that maybe it's happening to you. So when I went down this journey, certainly I started to feel better. I had more energy. It's just like this quality of life. It just seemed to be better. But one of the things that kind of scared me was, as the years went on, I felt like I had this brain fog. I just felt that I was going to be a person who I'm doing all this stuff to take care of myself, and I'm going to be this early onset Alzheimer's or dementia patient. And it scared me for a while, and I sat on it, and I thought, oh, please let this just go away. And I hesitated to tell you. And finally I did, because when you actually tell someone, it becomes more real. And I think I was avoiding getting that real. And I said to Dr. Weiss, I said, you know, I think that I think that I'm going to really be that early Alzheimer's patient. And he said, Mary Ellen, your whole body's connected. All these other good things that are happening in the rest of your body, they're happening in your brain too. Just relax, it'll be okay. I said, okay, and I go back, and then I came to you again, and I said, oh, I'm really scaring myself. So he said, you know, there's something maybe you need to think about. You're always, you know, doing the next thing, and you're so busy. You really need to learn how to be in the moment. And you should go back and read this book. And every time I get assigned a book by these two, I go home and I read it. So it was a book called Full Catastrophe Living by John Kabat-Zinn. And I started to read that book, and then I stopped reading that book. Because I felt, when I read that book, it wasn't a book to read, it was a book to do. It was another commitment. It was a practice that I really needed to begin to get into my life. And I wasn't ready. And I put it down, and I put it in the side, and I stored it away in the back of my brain. And I let it sit for a while. And the one thing I will share with you, and the reason I kind of got on this story, is probably within this past year, like the mental clarity has come back. I'm not in the middle of a sentence and I forget what I'm talking about. I'm not searching for words all over the place. Not to say it doesn't ever happen, but it wasn't happening like it was 3 or 4 years ago. And so I feel like your original comment about I'm all connected and all the good things that we're seeing with cholesterol and blood pressure and stuff, there's also good things happening in my brain. And I'm feeling of course I said I couldn't come up with a word, and now I can't come up with a word. I'm feeling the results of that now. And now to go back to your question of the doors that open, so one of those doors is mindful-based stress reduction. So I decided this winter I was ready. I was ready to take that next step. I was ready to adopt this practice, and I took a class in mindful-based stress reduction, which was an excellent class. I enjoyed it thoroughly. And I really said, I tried years ago to meditate. When I think about my breathing, I hyperventilate. I'm never going to be able to do this. So I went through the guided meditation, and I'm absolutely a novice at it today, but I practice it, I continue to practice it, and I could see at times that I could take that breath, and I could feel myself get out of a stress. Sometimes when I'm driving, I say, oh, Mary Ellen, ease up. And I could sit back, and my shoulders could go down, and I can exhale, and I could start to get in the moment and know what my body's doing and have an effect on it that is a positive effect. One of the other things, the outcomes of this, because this journey, the objective when I first started was to get healthy through diet, and I realized that you need to get healthy in a multitude of ways, and it's not just diet. So one of the other things is learning. Especially being in this program. When I was on my own, I tried to do as best I could, but coming here and having the information and people who could supply the information and point you in the right direction was just terrific to me, because I absolutely love to learn. Learned about my Graves' disease and understood that what was going on in my body, and that I can actually affect it without losing half my thyroid. All the decisions we make about every day, every meal, every bite is something that's either going to be positive to your health or detrimental to your health. And when you have the information behind you to help you make good decisions, it could be the difference between health and disease. One of the other things that was totally new to me when I started this journey was the environment. I had no idea how detrimental eating a standard American diet was to our planet. And so even though my piece now is a minuscule piece, I feel like I'm doing a better job of being a steward to this world that we live in. And the more people who do that little piece, suddenly it's going to add up and mean something. And I think the last thing is I've had influence on some people. And I'm amazed at that. So I make a salad at work, and the bowl is a serving bowl, let's face it. And I get comments like, that's some big bowl. And other people say, oh, that looks like a great salad. And then other people say, oh, I could never do that. And I said, well, I used to think that too, but here I am doing it, so never say never. And yet I have other people who have come to me and said, you know, we're doing a meatless Monday dinner at my house now because we see all these great vegetables you eat. And another lady said to me, you know those little peppers you eat? Those those sweet peppers. I have them as a snack in the afternoon now, and it's really convenient, and they're very tasty, and it makes me feel good. And when these things happen, I feel like I'm paying it forward. It's so inspiring. When there's a couple of people from work have come to me, and they've tried to play with their diet, and they ask me for recipes, and I get to share. And then when they have a specific question, I can't tell you how many times I've lent out the China study, How Not to Die from Dr. Greger, and the Eat to Live book. And I put little stickies on the front, and I say, you might be interested in this chapter, or you might be interested in the experiments they did on these pages. And depending on what they ask me, I share my information and I try and pay it forward. So even if someone makes a little bit of a change, and I've had that influence, it makes me feel really good.
I have nothing to say. Except when we ask a person to come up and share their journey, lately we've been asking them to give us a little blurb in an outline form. And so Marianne wrote this in an outline form, and she submitted it this week to Asha. And when Asha handed it to me, and I read it, I said,
Don't do that.
sometimes in the day-to-day mechanics of our lives, we really forget the important reason as to why we do something meaningful. And when I read your outline, I remembered back to 30 years ago why I originally wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah, got me going.
So, thank you for that.
Thank you, and thank all of you. It's, you know, I've been saying this now kind of when I decided to start this journey, that I've worked my whole life, and I'll be darned if I get to retire and I'm sick. I don't want to be on oxygen tanks like my father. I want to travel, I want to hike, I want to do things that matter. And the title of that book, Eat to Live, or Live to Eat, that was like so meaningful to me. Is that devil dog really worth it? Do you know? And you have to fundamentally ask yourself that question. And the more information you have, the more times you could say, no, it's not. So, I'm sorry, I was on my high horse on that one.
I think we would like to take some questions from the audience. You can ask a general question, of Mary Ellen or of any of us, and I think the way we're going to handle it is we'll take some questions, and any of us will feel free to add any commentary that we would like or highlights.
Listening to you, I just felt like I wanted to take my chair and go sit in the audience because you said so much of like what we could possibly say. Your lived experience is so meaningful, and I know I've only worked with you in the last year, but you know I always tell you you're just such a joy to see and a breath of fresh air, and I just want to thank you for being courageous enough to share this experience and be vulnerable in front of everyone, because I guarantee, I'm a plant-based eater, and I feel like what you just said changed me, and I guarantee there's someone in this room who's been changed by what you just said.
I also want to thank Mary Ellen for putting that so succinctly and clearly, and I think that the emotion is very important. We are feeling the emotion because we are aware, and we know how this kind of a lifestyle change, what a difference it can make. Other people also may know, but there's a deep resistance, almost to the form of denial about it. So when we feel this, we know that we're going to lose people, unfortunately, possibly, that we love because of culture, a culture of food. And we should be emotional about that. We should be really upset, and we should even be angry sometimes that that could possibly happen. And we should use that, in your words today, to motivate ourselves to tell people like Mary Ellen is doing. And it's not easy to push past that resistance. There's fear there, and we could lose people in our family in terms of who we have dinner with. I have friends who have told me they don't want to go out to eat anymore with me because I'm not as fun as I used to be 10 years ago. So that's fine, but I still want to help them because I want to be with them. So there's a lot of resistance, and Mary Ellen worked through that over the years, one issue at a time, courageously. Just like she read the book and put it aside, and then when she had strength and clarity, she came back to the book. And she did that with every issue, which is why she had that success. So I want to thank you for what you gave us today.
So I think this is one of the most relevant testimonials that we've had. And the reason being is because you did it before you had those debilitating conditions. And I really think that this is so powerful to share, because how many of us can see ourselves as the Mary Ellen who came here those years ago, right? We have little nagging things. Maybe the doctor's not ready to medicate us yet. Maybe our doctor's not ready, but just encouraging us to do stuff. But what we're really doing in those situations is we're just waiting it out, right? We're waiting it out for the inevitable. But the most powerful thing about lifestyle medicine is when we catch these things earlier, we can always help. And if we do wait, and if we don't take action early, like what you're doing, the later we go down that road, the more difficult it is to reverse these things with lifestyle intervention. And at the same time, the more dependent we become on the traditional medical system. So it's so important to share these stories. And a lot of you know my story starts with weight loss. But I actually want to start a series of before and after photos of people who went plant-based and didn't lose weight. Because I have people who are healthy weights who will come up and ask and say, but I don't want to lose weight. And there are so many examples, right? I mean, many of us on the panel where we just because your body is okay at maintaining a healthy body weight doesn't mean you lose that ability when you go plant-based, right? So these kind of things, I think they apply really broadly. So I want to thank you and for sharing that, and really ask everyone else to think about what are the little nagging things. Like, don't wait until it gets too late, and we can take action earlier. And I think that's good for everyone to hear. So thanks for sharing.
Okay, any questions? And if you can please stand up when you ask your question.
We're over here.
Sir, I'm a health coach and I'm basically from India. I have both Indian and American clients. It's very easy to convince the Indian clients to go plant-based, but most of my American clients have a withdrawal symptom because all their life they have eaten meat, and suddenly to ask them to go plant-based, it's very difficult. But I have certain complete no's, like I ask them to go to include plant-based diet in there, and to do cheat days like Sunday or a Monday, or out of 7 days, 3 days go meat but with vegetables. How do we convince, how do we change their mind? I tell them this is a very limiting belief that you can't change, but talking is easier. How to make them actually do it? They are seeing changes, they are losing weight, and I mostly help diabetic people. And because I'm a diabetic, but I'm not on medication. I haven't been able to maintain a good HB1AC. They see me, they try doing it, but my biggest challenge is how to remove this limiting belief that you cannot go plant-based altogether. You cannot remove meat from your diet at all.
Great question.
Who wants to take it?
You can't change their minds. You can give them as much education as possible, like our team does. Every time somebody comes, like Mary Ellen said, we give you a book to read. We give you the studies. The only way for people to change is to convince themselves. So, yes, the journey is just that. Is everybody going to be perfect all the time? No. You're going to have these ups and downs. As long as their trajectory is in the right direction, they will eventually get there. And when they see more benefits, and I highly recommend, actually we all do, to write down each and every benefit. And a benefit might be as simple as, I didn't get up and pee last night. Or, I haven't felt that pain in wherever. And once they start seeing these, because you forget, as soon as you start feeling good, you forget that you had these things, or it's not bugging you as much. So if they write them down, they're consistently made aware of it. The more they do it, the more they'll get there. Like you said, they're seeing benefits. So as they keep going through, they will. Cheat days are a downward spiral. So, if they can, we don't allow it, but if they can start minimizing to a gradual rather than being good, 1 day bad. Being good for 5, 1 day bad. That's a downward spiral. But if they just keep increasing and, like you're saying, have good vegetables with it and crowd out everything else, eventually they'll get there. But they need the education. They need to have all the scientific studies about whatever it is.
I completely agree with everything Wendy just said with regards to you cannot change someone's mind unless they're ready to come to that lifestyle change on their own. Sometimes we have patients who will come visit us, they'll hear what we have to say, they'll look at the education, and they'll just be like, this is not for me. And then a year later, 2 years later, after they've sat with the information for a while, they'll be back in our office having already made the lifestyle change or being mentally prepared to begin that journey. So it's so different from anything most of us have ever experienced, that being told you should go plant-based and this is the best way to prevent and reverse disease is such a paradigm shift in people's thinking that it's difficult to even wrap your mind around, and just being that supportive presence. And then also with regards to the cheat days, I just wanted to add that the reason we don't recommend cheat days is because it's a physiological dopamine hit when you consume something salty, sugary, or fatty. So it actually physiologically makes it more difficult to adopt a healthy lifestyle when your body's adjusted to that dopamine hit, when your taste buds are desensitized to the taste of real food. That's why we don't recommend it. And we don't want our patients to see adopting a healthy lifestyle as something tense and something that they have to grapple with and that feels difficult and challenging. We want it to feel full and enjoyable and pleasurable. And the way to get there is to eliminate all the foods and the experiences that make it difficult to fully appreciate adopting these lifestyle changes.
Now you know why Sarah is 99th percentile. Right? Yeah. She hasn't gone to medical school yet. Okay. Yeah.
And now so the other thing, and I just want to say as a fellow health coach, sometimes it's enough to help people to identify their own obstacles, because when we cruise through life, we don't even, as a person, we don't even think about these things that are getting in our way. And what I mean by obstacles, a lot of times they're just mental barriers that we put in place for ourselves. Sometimes they're not feeling, they're a mental barrier where we don't feel like we're worthy of being healthy, or we're worthy of achieving some of our goals that we want to do. So it breaks it down, but it really helps me to dissect and to just look at things. And it's not always about what we're putting in our mouth. It's really about why do we make the decisions that we do. So kind of trying to get towards that deeper level also often helps to just kind of open up new possibility, and then the problems sometimes solve themselves as a result.
I just wanted to add one thing. That comment that you made, Mary Ellen, where is really the pay dirt of the situation, where you said you came to the realization that that devil dog, eating that devil dog in the moment is not worth not having your retirement and the last 30 years of your life to yourself and under your control and enjoyment and having a real life. And I think when it comes down to it, until the person understands that choice, they will not be ready to move. And you can't make them understand that. I think you can help them and guide them along the way. And that's what coaching is about. The coaching helps to push in little increments every day that the person, so that they are ready to someday receive really the truth. Okay.
Do we have time for another question? We had one right here. Do you want it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hello. Thank you for your testimony, because I can really relate to what you're saying. And the question I have is, I know that you read Furman and you started the journey by yourself. What made you think, and I guess you were having some positives just doing it on your own. What made you think that, okay, going to a plant-based doctor would help you further if you didn't really have any of, the debilitating diseases and so on, and you were doing okay on your own?
So I'm not. So two things. One is that while I didn't have any debilitating diseases, I was smart enough to know I wasn't going in the right direction. I knew that I was here, but there was disease in my future, and I knew that. And going against the mainstream and being by yourself and trying this journey is difficult. I mean, and everybody who knows it, I mean, you just don't go into any restaurant and order off the menu anymore. It becomes difficult. And I heard Dr. Weiss and Asha give a presentation well before they actually opened the practice here at the Chester Library. And when these guys came and spoke, they spoke to me. And I said, that's the team I want to be on. So that's what drew me to come and seek out Dr. Weiss when the practice opened, because of one of the lectures that he did. And everything he said, it was like religion. It was like I found the answer. And I wanted to make sure that I had the guidance of professionals like this who could help me, because I knew it wasn't an easy journey.
Thank you. I had a question. How do you stay motivated? If you're trying to lead a healthy lifestyle and there's so many people around you that are not, and you feel like you're swimming upstream against the current, how does one stay motivated, especially in social situations?
Yeah, so like I said, every day is a decision, every meal, every bite, it truly is a decision. it almost is motivating to see people who look so unhealthy, and you see what they eat, and it's kind of the negative effect. Like, I go, oh my goodness, that's not the road I want to be on. So while they're all being very happy with their hamburgers and French fries, I look at their, you know, and they're taking their medicine and they're doing this, and I'm saying, I don't want to be that. So that's one way it's motivating, is to say, I don't really want to be on that road. And then sometimes it's that influence thing. It's like you almost have to be stronger when you're in that group, because I have a nephew who is a youngin' in his 20s, and he's, Auntie, you know, I'm doing it with you. And he started, and he's been on this track, and just to know that he's been doing this now, and that he's done it based off of seeing what I've done, it just gives me more motivation to keep doing something like that.
I just wanted to share, this kind of touches me because I started my journey almost 20 years ago. So I have kept my motivation for that long. Can the motivation happen in a minute? No. It takes years and years, and it builds up the way it built up for her, you know. So when you first learn what health can do, you know, you are in a, you know, you're just still trying to learn about it, and you'll go through the down cycle. But then when you start connecting the people around you and the diseases that they're going through, and for me, a lot of family members have gone through so much sickness, just watching them and they don't want to change has kept me going.
So I tune myself to listen, but I hear the same things. So we're motivated to seek pleasure and to avoid pain. And avoiding pain is really powerful. It's like that flight or fight response. And that is what usually gets people started. But it's not what keeps people around, because we can't keep ourselves in that fear mode forever. But what happens is, and I'm sure everyone can attest, once you fully commit and switch, it starts to become a preferable way to live. You feel better than you've ever felt. You're prouder and more confident in everything that you're doing. And it becomes more desirable than the old way. And that's how you can pass up those, I forget what it was, ho-hos or Twinkies, or like, you can pass them up every time, and you get to the point where you don't see them as food, because it doesn't make you feel good anymore. Like, but it's almost not fair to try to explain that to people. And the analogy that I use is like a couple starting a family. Like, you know, a couple announces that they're pregnant, they're having a baby, and everyone in the world tells you what to expect, right? You have 8 or 9 months of listening to people tell you exactly what you're going to go through, and none of it means anything the day you bring that baby home from the hospital and you're there trying to figure out what to do with it, right? Like, it's so I don't feel like it's really fair to try to explain it, but it's definitely worth trying to experience it. So if you can build up enough fear or enough motivation to really get yourself to commit for 3, 4, 5 weeks, then you start to get those feelings, and it can continue forever. The most dangerous part to stay in is where you're going back and forth, because you never see dramatic enough results, and you never feel good enough to get to that point where you're no longer motivated by fear, but you're motivated by pleasure and attraction for what you're working towards.
Community. Building yourself a new support system. Anthony's potlucks, they're an excellent way to do it. So if you're local, build a new community, and you have it here. You have it here at Ethos. You have it with the community-based potlucks that Anthony does. So certainly, that's a start, and you'll see the ripple effect, like Mary Ellen did. People will start coming around as well.
And I just wanted to take something that you said, which inspired me recently, and just relate it from this perspective, that we're all on a very long journey, and all of us, including the experts up here, have the feelings that you do of being drawn into the abyss or to places that we don't want to go. And it never ends. You always have to keep trying to be better every day. And something you said about you being pushed by the relationship of your nephew, this is the one who is in law school, who sort of, you see someone who you love ascending to a higher level. And then you know that this person is doing that because you're their hero or their model. And then that makes you keep going. And just last month, okay, I don't know if anyone knows this, but my kryptonite is cheese pizza. I don't know if anyone has heard that. So let me tell you the irregular story from the beginning. No, I'm not going to do that. It's like an hour long. But yeah. So we went on a family vacation to the home of where pizza was invented last summer, to Italy. And I had a concern, actually, in the months leading ahead, and I got different pieces of advice from different people as to whether I should have a slice of pizza with cheese on it. And I thought, there are different ways you can think about it, and there are whole food, plant-based individuals who would have had that pizza. And I, quite frankly, I didn't want to have it, but I did not know what was going to actually happen when I got to Italy. Quite frankly, And so when we actually got there, and I was always in the line of vision of my 11-year-old daughter, who is one of the highest level and most consistent plant eaters that I've ever known, I couldn't do it. Because I knew that I'm her leader. And I didn't want to do it. And that's the point. That was built up over years. And years ago, I might have done it. But that's the point that I knew that I had ascended to a new level. When I went to Italy, and I did not have that pizza as a treat, I knew that I was good to go.
This is really important. I'm part of this Facebook group, tons and tons of people on there, and a lot of people say it's 100% or nothing. And one of the people there, she blogs a lot. She went to Italy, and basically she brought her own food, and she didn't enjoy any of the food because, Italian food is around the sauce, which is made with oil. And my question is, are there times when you can have a little oil? Can you cheat? Or does that mean, cheese is a bit much. Cheese is a bit much, but, it's like you're not enjoying life at all and whatever. I just want to know. This would be very helpful for that group, and I'll post what you say.
I know. So, the reason I've been living this life for 20 years, and you're right, once in a while, it varies. As everybody has said different things, it depends on your health, whether you can cheat or no. Always find out what your health is truly. If you are in that percentile where you are really at the stage where you don't have less chances, we never recommend anybody to cheat. We're always 100%. Otherwise, you could be anywhere, and you can be in that journey that I, Marilyn, everybody else here took years to get to that 100%. So we're not, we're not policing people, but we know when we get to the 100%, you evolve, is how I say. You evolve to be. So, yeah.
Well, when people finish our mindful living journey or our year of mindful living, or when they get to an established point where they own the way they're living and they're comfortable, well, during the preceding year, we tell them, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't have that piece of pizza. You shouldn't have this. But once they graduate and once they get to a point, we say, you're your own boss. You're the professional. You know what you can withstand, because it's important to go for a certain distance in the beginning and put on your blinders, because you will never get to a high enough level if you keep moderating. There's a reason why Dr. Esselstyn, in every one of his presentations, has on the slide, moderation kills.
And then I also wanted to say, with regards to enjoying life, I think part of learning to be a high-level plant-based eater is learning how to enjoy life, given that the world around you is so different. Like the Italy example, the going to Italy, for example, I think one of the things we teach is how to go out to eat and figure out how to select choices from a menu that is whole food, plant-based compliant. And I think for me personally, as a plant-based eater, I enjoy going out to eat, and something that's exciting for me is trying out new fruits and vegetables, trying out things prepared in a new way. And then also with regards to cheating, I would say that the reason it's imperative not to cheat, as Anthony and Dr. Weiss put it so eloquently, is that fear of slipping and spiraling down. But once you get to that maintenance phase and you're, like Dr. Weiss said, conscious of where you are and what you can tolerate, that's up to you. But we should always be conscious of that physiological desire to continue indulging in foods that are pleasurable for us but aren't necessarily good for our health. I think constantly having that element of mindfulness is so important, and cultivating a mindfulness practice. So learning how to enjoy life as a plant-based eater, and also being mindful of where you stand and what you can tolerate.
Buongiorno. I am Italy today. So I don't know, I feel that I have to say something. I don't know what exactly, but we had the conversation about the pizza, so I said I need to say something.
The only thing I'm fearing more than you standing up is if a French person stood up.
Oh! So, my name is Christina. I live in the United States of America since 24 years. I'm a scientist. I thought I knew a lot about food. My father was a chef, one of the most beautiful restaurants in downtown Rome. So I grew up with food. I grew up with butter and heavy cream and blah, 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 blah. When I moved to the States, I realized that, oh, these people don't know how to eat. They don't know how to cook. They just shovel this yellow cheese that doesn't exist. So what I did, from pharmaceutical companies where I was working for many years, I opened an Italian cooking school for children. And I started to teach to children how to cook biscotti, which I made today, and pizza, blah, blah, blah. And then we met Dr. Weiss, and Ray is his patient. And a few months ago, this cooking school became whole food plant-based. Now, I want to tell you again, I didn't know what to say, but I'm telling you that I had a moment where my students, customers, clients, were starting, okay, this diet is making you a little, we still want your food. That's why we pay $75 per class. We don't want you to cook salad. So I really went through months where I had to challenge myself and rebuild all the menus and all the recipes. And I challenge everybody today because I made biscotti, whole food plant-based, no salt, no oil, no sugar. And so I feel that the scientific part is good for some people, not for everybody. Because at the end of the world, people want to have fun when they socialize. So you can really inspire other people starting from the fun place, where food, for Italian, food is identity. I am the pizza guy. I am the pasta, fresh pasta. So destroying that identity in a person is really impossible. So just go around and say, listen, we can try to make biscotti. And actually, I created my little community in Princeton where I'm creating these events for free where everybody will come and share, and we will try to make biscotti, and somebody will try to make pizza with the cauliflower. But what I ask people, that is, my friend in Italy, you know what they told me? They told me, Christina, you really became American. So, what does it mean? Well, so, because it is really difficult. But what is important is to start a conversation and to be an example for other people, and then you just ask this question. And this is what I ask people when I see the resistance. So, what is your dream? If you really should choose the biggest dream of your life, what is your dream?
Just to be healthy. I'm 77. Now, I don't have that many years left, so just to be healthy.
Okay. So people say, I want to travel to Italy, I want to buy a Ferrari. But how can you achieve that? How just living a longer life? How can you live a longer life if you're sick? Mary Ellen, okay? So, and everything goes down to debt. So all these things that you want to achieve are impossible to achieve if you are not healthy. So health should be your first dream. And then how? And then the science arrive, okay? But the fun part is very important, to involve people, rather than say, oh, you will die, you are so sick, look at you. With 80% of the people that I know, that doesn't work. And by the way, you can have pizza. And by the way, Italy is evolving because the best vegan and plant-based restaurant in Rome, you guys will come with me. Yes. You have no idea.
So
Thank you.
We did end up having many wonderful meals there without the pizza.
I was thinking we could suggest to take the rest of the questions after Dr. Stoll. There will be more questions, and then we could continue.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. So we'll be taking the rest of your questions after our next speaker, and then also at during our lunch. So hold those important questions. We really want to talk to you.
Okay. Thank you.